I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Geneva Historic Preservation Commission for August 20th, 2024. If you could recall the roll.
Jensen?
Here.
McManus?
Here.
Phillips?
Here.
Solomon? Stazen? Tobler?
Here.
Zelmer?
Here. We have a quorum. Okay, the first item on our agenda is approval of meeting minutes for May 28th, 2024. Did anyone have any comments about the May 28th comment? If not, can I get a motion to approve?
I approve the minutes of May 21st, 2024.
I think you're making a motion to approve.
Motion to
I
approve.
motion to approve, sorry.
I'll second that.
Great. I guess call the roll.
Jensen?
Aye.
McManus?
Aye.
Phillips?
Aye.
Tobler?
Aye.
Zelmer?
Aye. Okay, then we have the meeting minutes for August 20th, 2024. Does anyone have any revisions to those or comments about that?
No.
If not, can I get a motion to approve?
I move to approve the meeting minutes from August 20th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, and call the roll.
Jensen?
Aye.
McManus?
Aye.
Phillips?
Aye.
Tobler?
Aye.
Zelmer?
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, next we are having a public hearing on 949 South Batavia Avenue. I'm going to, if you want to speak at the hearing, please sign in, and if you will call the people as they signed in off the list. Also, if you do make comments and they've already been made, you can just send to the comments that have already been made. There's no reason to repeat your comments that have already been made. Other than that, everyone needs to be civil. I think it'll be a civil public hearing on this one. We'll open the public hearing. I'll swear people in that are going to make testimony, and then we will close the public hearing. We'll have a bit of discussion, and then see whether we can move to a motion for the landmark nomination. So with that, can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
I move to open the public hearing at 949 South Batavia Avenue.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The public hearing is open. Okay, anyone that wants to provide testimony on tonight's public hearing, if they could please stand and raise their right hand and attest that you basically are going to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth in your testimony. And with that, yeah. Okay, say aye. Aye. Very good, thank you. I'm used to a script, so excuse me if we're with that, I will have Jackie introduce the potential local landmark nomination, and we'll go from there.
All right, thank you, Chairman Zelmer. So as he said before, this is really exciting. We do have a potential landmarking for 949 South Batavia Avenue. It is located southeast of Geneva, and we're happy to be here. Before I get started talking about the landmark itself, I want to talk about what landmarking does essentially. So Geneva landmarks receive community-wide recognition and protection under the Preservation Ordinance. A considerable amount of scientific university research has focused on the question of historic designation and the community benefits derived from the designation of landmarks and historic districts. Among the documented benefits are enhancement of economic development, employment, tourism, and neighborhood stability. Now, as much as it does, there's a lot of miscommunication on what a landmark does, but I think it would be really beneficial to talk about briefly what is not involved in a local landmark designation. Designation of an individual property as a landmark or a group of properties as a historic district does not require property owners to restore a property. It does not require property owners to make improvements or alterations to a property. It does not require owners to purchase or install plaques identifying a property as a historic site. It does not require specific paint colors. It does not regulate any interior improvements, and it does not otherwise control or limit the use of a property. Now let's get to the good stuff. This is going to be the potential landmarking for the Bronson-Bauman House at 949 South Batavia Avenue. This is where the house is located. It's really close to the Gunnar Anderson Forest Preserve, and it's relatively close to the Fox River. I also do believe that kind of 12 or 1 o'clock to the location, there's also the historic grotto. Now for the historic overview of the potential landmark, the construction began in 1949. In 1952, structure was completed and it was submitted as who we will talk about eventually, the Bronson, Jack Bronson, his thesis project. In 1966, the Bronson house was sold to Dr. and Mrs. Carl H. Bauman, and today we have Mr. Bauman here as well, representing the property, which is incredible. In 1977, the Geneva house, or Jack Bronson essentially said the Geneva house is close in spirit and design to the Farnsworth house, which we are all familiar with. Both are curtain wall construction, and both exploit their wooded sites to enhance the visual impact of their pristine steel and glass designs. In 1992, a historical marker was added celebrating the history of the structure. And then today, we are talking about potentially making it a City of Geneva historic landmark. Here are a few historic pictures of the property. It is important to note that this open patio was screened in. That's really the only major modification that this house has been through. Otherwise, it's very, very similar to the original design and construction. Now, on the application, I will say in the staff report, I focused solely on the Geneva house. However, on the property, there are 2 other smaller contributing sites that are in the bounds of property that is listed on the landmark. I just didn't showcase it in the staff report. However, there are 2 smaller cottage-like structures on the property. This was actually when Jack Bronson, he built the property. When he first bought the house, this was actually a garage, and eventually, because he knew he wanted to move his house there, he turned this garage into a living space for him and his children. In the application, it discusses that Bronson said that some of the best times he had was in this really cute, tiny garage with his family while he was building the house. But other than that, it's a very wooded and heavily wooded area, It is actually very hard to see without going right up on it, but it is covered with a lot of brush and a lot of greenery and things of that nature. But today we're going to be talking about specifically the Geneva house. Something that's very important about the Geneva house, besides the architecture, which we will get to that in a second, it was the architect of the house was Jack Bronson. Jack was born in 1923 in Aurora, Illinois. He studied architecture under Mies van der Rohe at the Illinois Institute of Technology, where he earned his BS in 1948 and his Master's of Science in 1954. Something that's really special about this project is that it gained notoriety for the steel and glass building project called the Geneva House, and this house was actually his thesis project, so that's very interesting. In 1959, he joined C.F. Murphy and Associates, where he worked for 6 years, during which he designed the award-winning Richard J. Daley Center, which is known to be one of the first architectural marvels of Chicago. Now, we mentioned him before. Jack Bronson worked under Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. Historically, he's called Mies van der Rohe. I've heard people say Mies. So if you've heard of him, that is the guy that he worked under. He is a prolific modern architect, and he definitely influenced the modern architecture movement that we see today. Mies van der Rohe was born in 1886 in Germany. He worked closely with other very prolific architects, Peter Behrens, Le Corbusier, and Walter Gropius. He is known for the modernist architecture movement. He was the Dean of Architecture for the Illinois Institute of Technology, and he was known for sayings, which we have all have heard. If you've heard less is more, or God is in the details, Mies van der Rohe was the guy who said it. So very, very important not only to architecture, but everyday life. All right, so this is a very basic rendering of what the house looks like from different elevation points. It is to showcase the scale and proportion of the home. However, the Geneva house is renowned for its innovative use of materials, particularly in its facade design. Bronson's choice of materials and their application contribute to the distinctive aesthetic that harmonizes with the surrounding environment while standing out as a modern architectural statement. Bronson's design for the Geneva house reflects a modernist approach characterized by clean lines, open spaces, and a minimalist aesthetic. The modernist influence is evident in the building's form and functionality, embodying principles of simplicity and clarity. The home demonstrates a thoughtful integration with its natural surroundings. Bronson's design considers the landscape and topography, creating a structure that complements and enhances its setting rather than dominating it. The historic significance overall is that the Bronson-Bauman House holds substantial historical significance due to its direct associations with some of America's most influential architects, including Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. The residence reflects the design philosophies of these prominent figures. It is a testament to mid-century modern architecture style that flourished in the United States during the 1940s. As far as architectural significance, the structure is architecturally significant, representing one of the few remaining examples of mid-century modern architecture in Geneva. This residence is a notable survivor of a once popular design movement, emphasizing simplicity, functionality, and seamless integration with the natural environment. Its preservation provides a rare glimpse into the mid-century modern aesthetic, characterized by clean lines, open spaces, and an innovative use of materials, which were widely celebrated in America during the 40s and 50s. The house is a testament to this influential architectural style and is an essential piece of Geneva's architectural history. And I'm sure you guys are done hearing me talking for the moment, so I'm going to bring out Elizabeth Safanda and Al Watts from Preservation Partners. They are going to be talking about, they're representing the property, and they are also going to be talking about benefits of landmarking.
Could you hand me the list?
Could you move back a couple of pictures on the slide so we can reference? And it's just that one, right there with the, showing the footprint. So Al's my backup today. I don't know. You add as you deem fit. I've just been recovering from COVID, and I was very weak, actually. I'm not contagious, I promise you. Okay, I want to talk to you.
About. You can state your name to start with.
Oh, sure. Elizabeth Safanda. And do you need address?
We don't
think
need
I
the address.
put it. I don't know if I put it in that. So let's go back to 1952. At that point in time, I was 8 years old, and my family was building a ranch house on Mead Court, which is off South Street. And so it was a nice ranch house, but just basic, nothing that's going to be written up in these architecture books. And I just could kick myself repeatedly because I used to go all over town on my bicycle, that I did not get down to River Lane and see this glass house, because I'm sure I would have been just stunned by it. And it was very much of a well-kept secret, in that location. It's not super visible. Decades later, after that house was built and my house was built, a little-known treasure is now being recognized and protected. Kudos to Jackie Bowling for taking on this project after Michael Lambert's departure. And I think it's been a seamless transition, at least from my vantage point. And you did a wonderful job highlighting the significance and the history of the structure. Your presentation outlined the unique features of the house and makes a very strong case for landmarking. You know, I think that you talked about benefits of landmarking, but I want to kind of go over three of what I think are the major ones. One is public recognition now, or awareness of a structure in our community, a significant structure. And when I was starting to do this, to work with Michael Lambert and then work with, well, actually with Charles Bauman as well, I was amazed to come across so many people did not know this house was tucked in down there off Batavia Avenue. So I think that one of the first things, as I say, is that there's heightened public awareness or recognition of a landmark. Secondly, there's protection from demolition. Well, this is really critical. In the immediate vicinity of this glass house, there are 4 properties that have been demolished, some in the last, most in the last decade. One of them was I call significant house, designed by Fraser and Raftery. So, if this house were not protected in this manner, down the road, certainly not by Mr. Bauman here, but down the road there could be demolition. So there's protection for that. And then thirdly, this house would be eligible for the Illinois Property Freeze Program. That allows the homeowner to invest in restoration work that maintains the building's unique features. And the homeowner must spend 25% of their current assessed value. And then, once their work is done, now they've enhanced the value of the property, the actual taxable valuation does not rise for 7 years. So if you're paying $15,000 in taxes before you do the work, you wait 7 years before there's any increase, even though you're now enjoying your enhanced property. And then after the 7 years, I believe it's 5 more years, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think it's 5 more years that eases up to your new wonderful level that you're going to have. Anyway, when they consider when the state of Illinois Historic Preservation Agency considers an application for tax freeze, for property tax freeze, they do consider the interior. And that is unlike what you are doing. I mean, the interior is interesting to us. You've seen the pictures in the packet and in some of these books, but that is, it's not usually considered important, but in a request for property tax valuation and freeze, they definitely are concerned with the interior. And I think what's so exciting about this project, and if you could just put that one image back up, Jackie, can you do this one that's, it's not that far back in the slide, I think. Maybe more than I thought, okay.
This is not a part of the,
That's not part of it?
it's
but
not.
Okay.
It's in the staff report.
It's in the staff report. All right.
Which is available online, everybody.
No, I think you had it on the slide. I saw it. It was just further down.
I did see it on the
Yeah.
slide, but you know what? That's okay. We can just go ahead. We can go
It was
ahead.
like further down.
And people on the commission are very familiar with this.
Yeah.
It's a rendering. There you go. There you go.
Oh,
Right
this
there.
one?
There. Mhm.
Oh.
There it is.
I thought you
The only thing it doesn't show is the piano. Okay, no. All right. The rendering there is very important to look at because the footprint of this house is exactly what it was in 1952. The current owners added screened in that projecting patio in the front. They screened that in, but they didn't change the footprint at all. And other than that, there's no real change to it. So what you see there is the original footprint, and then as you go back, and I know not many people have done this, but as you go back into the third of the house toward the street, you'll see the 3 bedrooms and the 2 bathrooms and the utility room they're in the exact same location that they have been. there have not been changes with regard to that. And you've seen pictures, I think, of the house and the interior that were in your packet. And then this wonderful book, Modern in the Middle, it celebrates 3 Geneva houses. And let's see, Raftery House, Walter Fraser's house, Howard Raftery's house, and then this house as well. So that is really an honor because there are many significant buildings in this book, including the Farnsworth House. I came across a little bit of trivia that I thought would be interesting to Dan. Is Dan McFadden here? Did I see him? I thought this trivia would be interesting because in 1956, Mrs. Bronson was, I think she's very involved in the community. And in '56, she hosted an open house at her house as part of a tour of distinguished Geneva kitchens. And people paid, it was a benefit, and it was to benefit the landscaping at the new Geneva Community Hospital wing. So she was a very civic-minded. They had other tours. They had the Wellesley Club came there. But then for a long period of time, there was not this public, involvement and outreach. Today, okay, I think that's it for the tax freeze. Today, the Brownson-Bauman House is hailed as one of 3 iconic glass houses in the United States. Philip Johnson, who has his home 1949, I believe, in Connecticut. Farnsworth House nearby here, 1952 to 54. It's about the same time period, and there were these hints that these 3 different architects were sometimes convening at the Mies van der Rohe office and looking over each other's drawings. I think that might have happened. At any rate, we can applaud this being one of the 3 iconic glass houses, and we can also rejoice that this house is not on a floodplain. Okay. Thank you. I think I've got everything and not taking anything of yours.
That is my cell phone, that's okay.
Water bottle, yeah. I'm reading that. My phone? What? My phone? That's your phone.
Any hoozle.
For a water bottle.
Thank you, Ms. Safanda, I appreciate it. And with that, that concludes the overview of 949 South Batavia, and it's time to discuss, time for comment.
Well, I think we would want to hear from Caroline Zinke. You wanted to come up and say something?
Well, I did, but may I request to be the last person who wants to speak?
Okay, Al, did you want to say something? If you would step up to the podium.
Al Watts, Preservation Partners of the Fox Valley 8 Indiana Street in St. Charles. Honestly, most of what I was going to say, Lisa Fanda already said, so if you have questions about the property tax freeze program, I'm happy to answer those. That was mostly what I was going to talk about. But I just wanted to thank Mr. Bronson for having this landmark put in. If this is approved, I believe it'll be the only mid-century modern property that's in a landmark at all in Geneva. There may be something in the district, you can correct me. And now you'll be able to be just like St. Charles and Batavia in the sense of you now have a mid-century modern architecture property. The St. Charles has the Municipal Center and Batavia has the Campana. So you guys will be able to be right there, which will be nice. That's really all that I had. So if you have any questions, I can answer them. And just wanted to thank Charlie for bringing this up. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's it, and so you could have the, if you want.
Okay, all right. Now, I may be absolutely wrong here. Carolyn Zinke. I am a former HPC member. When I went over to see the property one afternoon. I may be absolutely crazy, but I believe that the house is enclosed by a 6-foot fence. Am I right? It is. Okay, thank you. Because no one else is mentioning that, and I'm thinking,
You can't see it from the street.
no, you can't see it from the street, but if you illegally walk around the house, you can see it for sure.
You get a little glimpse if you're coming from the south.
Yes,
driving
yes,
north.
yes, yes. Yeah, and I'm hoping that the new owner is planning on removing this fence, because what's the point of having a landmark and everyone is so wonderfully concerned about the beautiful glass walls when nobody can see them? And I can't imagine being inside the house and looking out the windows and seeing a 6-foot wooden fence. So that's the only thing I wanted to say.
It's not surrounded by a fence, not at all,
It's
just on the south.
Well,
It's completely open otherwise.
If you're going to make a statement, you need to be up at the podium, please.
Correct.
But I think we have to look at it as it stands right now, and it is not a new owner. The owner has had the house since 1967, I believe. So, does the commission have any questions for the owner or Jackie?
You want to go
I
first?
feel like I'm wheeling up to my microphone right now. And not really questions, actually, just comments. Are we good with comments?
We're good with comments. We are going to discuss the comments we have about the house and the application after the public hearing when we make a motion.
Okay,
to
then
do-
no, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
I do,
Okay.
yes. I just want to make some clarifications, or be clarified if I'm incorrect. But what we're doing here is landmarking a piece of property. Is that correct? Not just the glass house. I don't know whether, does anyone know if the fence is actually on the property? So is that fence part of the landmark? That would be a question I would have. Other questions I would have are about the house itself. I mean, I think we heard that nothing or very little has been changed except for possibly putting the screen on the porch area. I'm assuming that is not a permanent structure, that it could be removed at some point in the future if someone wanted to do that. I see you're nodding your head, yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right.
Okay.
Are there any other physical changes that were made to the building over time that would potentially affect its integrity?
No.
I noticed when I was out there that there's a kind of a bulkhead around the bedroom end of the building, about 2 or 3 feet high wooden bulkhead at the bottom. Was that part of the original construction, or is that something that was added later?
I'm not familiar with what you're discussing.
Isn't there some wood underneath the glass of the bedrooms?
That's original.
That's original?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. So there has been no substantial or any changes at all to any materials of the building that would have infected or affected its integrity? Okay, great. That's
I
good.
might also clarify the fence issue.
Sure.
Should he come up and
Yeah.
maybe,
Yeah, if you would.
introduce himself?
Thank you.
even back in 1966, there was a lot of noise from the traffic.
Sir, could you tell us your name?
Your name,
For the record.
Charles Bauman,
thank you.
the petitioner. As I was saying, even back in 1966, there was a fair amount of noise off of Route 31. In addition, I would say for probably 4 or 5 years after my parents purchased the property, we were still getting architecture students who would wander in, and also the general public who didn't seem to see the edge of the property line and kind of walked off the sidewalk and through the wooded area.
Sure.
So
that fence was built probably what year? Do you have a estimate?
Probably late 1966, early 1967.
Okay, great. And just to clarify, it looked to me when I was out there that there's fence on probably 3 sides of the property. There's no fence along the driveway that goes back to the house
Well,
behind.
there's no fence on the easement that would
Okay.
make it difficult. The fence along the east side was more of a property line delineation.
Okay. And then, as far as the garage, the house that's in the back, have there been any alterations or changes made to that house over the?
Not to the exterior, no.
Okay, just to the interior potentially.
Yeah. Originally, as I was telling Jackie, I believe there's board and batten was the original walls. That's since been covered with 4x8 sheets of darker brown woodwork.
On the
Quote, unquote.
interior or the exterior?
Interior.
Interior.
Okay. The original siding that's the original siding from the house as far as you know?
Yes.
Just 2 structures?
That's the original siding for the guest house.
Okay.
And the garage that's next to the guest house, do you know when that was constructed, or was that part of the original?
No, that's not part of the original property. It was put in, I'd like to say, late 60s, early 70s.
Okay.
My father was called out at various hours of the night, and in order to minimize the amount of time he had to spend clearing the snow off his vehicle to get in for a call, the garage was built.
Okay, great.
Are we also considering the garage as part of this?
If it sits within it's on the property and it's in the time of significance,
Sounds like it is, right?
it sounds like it is, and, I mean, we could, I guess we could exclude it. Could we exclude it, is it?
We could. However, typically when we do a landmarking process, and what we've done for the others is every building that's on that property or legal description is included.
Okay.
But once again, I think that's
Great.
for discussion.
I don't think we could eliminate that unless, like in the case of the blacksmith shop, it was.
Yeah, they
that
brought
part
the.
A tighter
it's
distance.
cut out.
They
Yeah.
cut it out, yeah, I
Yeah.
know, yeah, I think, okay.
The original garage, or as we refer to it as the guest house, is also significant since Shockney's family lived there while they were constructing the Geneva house.
Okay.
Right, and so, well, I think that's all the questions I have
Okay.
for you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, Charles.
Okay. Do we need, does anyone else need any more testimony from the public or from Jackie? Any other questions?
No.
I just have a concern that I'll mention up front here before we decide whether or not to close the meeting. There's some information in the packet, or there's information regarding the garage and those two structures in the back of the yard that wasn't in the original package. I think there was some miscommunication early on about whether or not those were to be included or not. I think Jackie rightly has, you know, added some of that information into the packet tonight, but there's still some drawings in here that are missing an outline of those two buildings in a couple of spots. I have not had a chance to review that new information. The fence has come up tonight as being something that potentially might be part of the landmark. So I'm just suggesting maybe that I'm throwing this out to the commission, that we consider like tabling this until the next meeting in order to be able to review that latest new information before we make a decision.
Do you think that we would need additional testimony from anyone, any experts or Jackie or anything like that? Or could we close, because I believe we can close the public hearing and then table the discussion on the landmark status until the next meeting, which would be within, I believe, it would be within the time that we would have to make a landmark designation.
Yeah, well, how many days do we have post
I
closing of
believe we
public
had,
hearing?
do you know?
45 days.
What's that?
45 days.
So if we could table it until the next meeting, and I guess the question is, do we leave the public hearing open until that time, or would it be better to, or do you think that we could just table it to digest what we have now, basically?
I'm not really sure, because I'm not sure what the additional information is in here,
Okay.
and whether or not, I'm assuming that in some fashion it would be made available to the public. And so if...
Are you concerned that if we close the public hearing right now and you read something, or one of us read something
Or someone
that
from the
might
public reads
require
something.
an additional, someone's input?
Someone
So-
else, yeah.
Someone else's comment, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I believe we could probably hold the public hearing open till the next meeting.
Yeah.
And then that would give us time to digest this information and then open, open it up again. And
Yep.
then we're suspending it until a date certain, which is the next meeting, which is October 15th.
Yeah.
And then on the 15th, we'd reopen the public hearing, get any additional information that we may need,
Right.
and then close the public hearing and make our discussion and actual motion on that at that point.
So then in the next meeting, we would hear what we need to hear, say what we need to say, close the public hearing,
Correct.
and then we could
And then we
say
could
what we want
deliberate
to say, and then
And then make
take
a
vote.
discuss, after a motion's been made, we'd have discussion about the merits of that motion,
Yeah,
and that would be after the public hearing was closed.
okay.
So we will continue, I think, I think the way we would do this is get a motion to continue the hearing to a date certain, which is October 15th. And then we would vote on that, and then we move on to the next item on our agenda.
Okay, so I can, I'll make a motion then. I would move to what? What am I-
Continue the
Oh,
hearing.
okay. So I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing for 949 South Batavia Avenue, so that we can digest further additional information provided to us today and reopen the public hearing on Tuesday, October 15th.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Would we have to allow public comment for the second part?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not, are you making a public comment for right now?
Yes. You never opened it to the public.
We opened
We
it
did
for
open
the
it to the
people
public.
that were here, and we asked whether you wanted to have any comments. But you can make your comments at the next one, or you could, I mean, we have an existing,
We could take her comment now, I
okay.
think.
It hasn't been seconded, so we'll just
Yeah.
hold
It's
that.
very short, but it has to do with the naming of,
State your name for the record.
I'm Patricia McLaughlin. And this is a comment regarding the naming of buildings. And I don't want to diminish the Bauman's excuse me, care for the house, but I think that it would be better if it were just named the Brownson House, because, well, in the case of my house, it's the White House. I've done a lot, I've done a great deal of restoration, but I don't think it should be called the Hoyt McLaughlin House. And I think that it should be just the Brownson House in this designation. And I think that should be the practice in other situations as well. That's what I had to say.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I guess we need another motion.
Yeah, that's fine. So I move to continue the public hearing for 949 South Batavia Avenue to give us the opportunity to review new additional information. And we can reopen the public hearing on Tuesday, October 15th, our next scheduled meeting.
Second.
If you could call the roll on that one?
Jensen,
Aye.
McManus,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Tobler,
Aye.
Zelmer.
Aye. The public hearing is closed, and we'll take a 5-minute recess to reset. Thank you. Well, I think we'll get started again. So the next thing on our agenda is 102 South 2nd Street, case number 2024-070. Jackie?
Thank you, Chairman Zelmer. So, like you said before, we are going to be reviewing 102 South 2nd Street. It is also the Unitarian Universalist Society of Geneva. The Unitarian Universalist Church at 102 South 2nd Street was built in 1843. In 1874, a vestibule was added and the original front doors were reportedly relocated to their current position. These front doors are distinctive features of the building. However, due to years of repairs, the original stained finish had to be painted over to hide numerous fixes and extensive caulking on the historic entry doors. In the early 1950s, architects Fraser and Rafferty of Geneva proposed an addition, resulting in a single-story modernist wing of concrete block designed by Jack C. Bronson. We just talked about him. And it was completed in 1956. This nearly symmetrical addition encircled the historic west elevation of the original building and included an office, kitchen, restroom, utility room, and a small meeting place. In 1989, the addition was expanded and connected to the Pioneer House, which was the former parsonage at 112 South 2nd Street, modifying the south end of Bronson's original design. The church underwent significant restoration and renovation, with the sanctuary interior and windows being updated in 1996 and the original exterior in 2004. The pictures that I'm showing, this is actually going to be a picture that they had taken prior to drawing their HABS document, which is the historic building survey. I don't know the A, it's leaving me right now. But right here is an original picture of the building, and then the picture to the left was one that I took last week. I wish I can get a front-facing picture. Unfortunately, there are cars and a major road, so I was unable to get the front, but it looks very similar to before. This location is very familiar with historic preservation and the commission. It was built, as I said, in 1843. In 2002, there was a restoration of windows, bell tower for the church. In 2005, it went through a renovation. In 2007, it went through roof replacement. 2013, they replaced the door, and then so on and so forth. They have been at the HVC a few times regarding permits to keep the church in good shape. For this project, however, we will be focusing on the 1956 common room addition, which and the windows within this space. The applicant is proposing the replacement of 7 windows in this space. This drawing was also provided by Michael Mackey, the architect that's on this case, or on this application, I should say. I am not going to bore you guys with more info regarding Jack C. Bronson, prolific architect, and we just talked about him. So he's very important to this structure, and it's important that he's a part of that. To make this transition easy to review the application, we are going to go through space by space what they have provided. We received the permit application on August 26th, 2024. There are kind of 3 reasons for the request. The first one being in 2023, they were awarded a grant from the Department of Homeland Security to enhance the physical security of the facility. This grant is in part of a nonprofit security grant to help houses of worship and other nonprofits to prevent and protect themselves from terrorist and other extremist attacks. As part of the application process for this, the Department of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency assessed the vulnerabilities and concluded that the ground floor windows do not have protective measures to mitigate against hazardous effects of flying glass during an explosive event. The second reason for the request is, and this is a quote from Tammy Porter, the Preparedness Grants Program Manager, and as a part of the Preparedness Grants Administration. She had said that no construction costs, meaning renovation, demolition, or restoration, are grant eligible under the Nonprofit Security Grant Program. Just the FEMA-approved project for window replacement would be grant eligible. That's an excerpt from the email that they had received, and I also had verified via a conversation with Tammy Porter that that was correct. The new windows will include laminated glass that will make it more difficult for vandals to penetrate the building and reduce injury from flying glass if there is an explosion. Second, the new windows will be more energy efficient due to insulated frames and double pane gas-filled glass, excuse me. These are going to be detailed photos and written descriptions of any of the deteriorated areas. According to the applicant, most of these 68-year-old windows are inoperable due to wear and tear or missing components. For instance, all 5 smaller windows have been caulked shut to reduce cold air drafts. Before being caulked, they required 2 people to close them, 1 person pushing them from the outside, another person latching them from the inside. Here is an interior and exterior photo of each applicable window that is scheduled for replacement. The applicant also provided a wider angle of each window that was being replaced. And then here are the other windows. We see them from the east and the west, both the interior and the exterior. And then here are the historic photos of the building with the windows visible. Another facet of the application is the written description of each window, each existing window, including material, operation, type, number of panes or lights per sash, original or replacement, approximate age, and the details of the historic trim. All 7 windows, per the applicant, have steel frames and sashes, are casement windows, and are original, i.e. they were installed in 1956, now 68 years old. 5 of the 7 windows have 2 lights with single pane glass. and 2 of the 7 windows have 6 lights with single pane glass. The applicant also provided dimensions of each existing window, including overall dimensions, sash dimensions, and the glass area of each sash. They provided this, which is, more of a electronic drawing, and then Michael Mackey did draw a kind of a more in-depth look at what the sashes and window look like, which was great. Another facet of the application was to identify any specialty glass features. Per the applicant, there are no specialty glass features. The original hardware includes casement cranks and screens. Many cranks and screens are missing, and nearly all windows are inoperable. We are going to be moving forward into the new windows. The windows that have been provided by the applicant, per the applicant, are very similar, almost replicas of the original window that are scheduled for replacement. Both options, Crystal and Quaker windows, are utilized by other historic buildings and are sensitive to the built environment. Description of each proposed window, material, operation type, number of panes or lights per sash. The applicant indicates that the proposed windows will feature aluminum frames and sashes. The 2 wider windows will have 6 sashes, each with 1 light per sash. The 2 outer sashes will have casements, while the 4 inner sashes will be fixed. The 5 narrow windows will each have 2 sashes with 1 light per sash, and all of these will be fixed. The dimension of the proposed window, including overall dimension, sash dimensions, glass area of each sash. The applicant has provided the dimensions of both proposed window options, including overall dimension, sash dimensions, and glass area of each sash. And the images were right here. Any special characteristic of the proposed windows or glazing. The exterior pane will be constructed of laminated security glass. Laminated security glass consists of 2 or more layers of glass bonded together with a layer of plastic in between. This construction enhances the glass's resistance to impact and penetration while maintaining a similar appearance to traditional glass. The plastic layer helps hold the glass together if broken, reducing the risk of injury and improving security without altering the window's overall aesthetic. Here is the proposed hardware. Another part of the application was the cost estimate for the repair of each window. According to the applicant, window repair and restoration are not covered by the federal grant received. Only new windows are eligible for grant funding. Despite this, the applicant explored restoration options in anticipation from inquiries from the Historic Preservation Commission. They consulted Geneva's HPC Guide to Window Repair and Fabrication Contractors for Historic Properties as their primary references. They contacted all companies in the guide who were willing to work on steel windows. They also provided a timeline of sorts to the efforts to finding the window restoration contractor. When they reached out to Bill Rice, the email reads, "Hi Kevin, just wanted to give you a budgetary sense as to where the cost is shaking out for the proposed Hope windows. Looking at a fully furnished and install value, we would be at approximately $150,000. Please let me know if you think this is in your overall budget." The second part, itemized estimates for the replacement cost per window, including the cost to remove and dispose of the existing windows, costs of new unit and delivery to job site, and the cost to install and trim replacement windows. And I have the number because I can't read it up here. I know y'all can't read it. Let me get it up here. We have the estimate from Quaker, and then we have Savachi. The Quaker windows would be $27,809. The Savachi Glass Company would be $42,884. Windows aren't the only thing that the applicant is working towards to make the church safer. The applicant has outlined plans to enhance security through collaboration with the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA. These improvements will include the installation of additional lighting, security cameras, and access control systems. The Illinois Department of Natural Resources has reviewed these proposed additions and indicated that the measures are approved and welcome, provided the implementation respects historic preservation guidelines. Embedding this new technology will necessitate embedding it within the mortar joints rather directly into the historic materials. And finally, the Nonprofit Security Grant Program offers financial support for enhancing physical security measures and target hardening for nonprofit organizations identified as high risk for terrorist attacks. The program aligns nonprofit preparedness efforts with a broader state and local preparedness initiatives. Additionally, it is intended to foster coordination and collaboration in emergency preparedness activities among public and private community representatives and state and local government agencies. There. And then we do have applicant Kevin O'Neill here to talk with us and answer some questions.
My name is Kevin O'Neill, and I'm one of the members of the Unitarian Church and have been involved in this grant process, as well as facilities improvements at the church.
Thank you for coming. Did you want to make any statement before we go to questions?
I think Jackie presented it quite well.
Okay.
I had a miscellaneous question. Weren't we thinking about putting a door on the back?
We did, and that was the last time I was here, probably about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And we had a very rough drawing of what we thought.
Yeah.
And it didn't correspond to the steel concrete look of the Bronson architecture, so we had to abandon that project.
Okay.
So have you selected one of the glass companies yet?
No, it's, we're navigating at least 3 different government agencies trying to make this work. And so as we went through the process, we thought it was important for us to down select to a handful of contractors and then come to you with what products they are suggesting. So for example, one of the requirements from the FEMA grant is we cannot specify a manufacturer or specific product. We have to make sort of the bid open enough for equivalent and comparable products. So we have that. We've got the Quaker and we have the Crystal. But we didn't want to down select to one until we got feedback from you that both of the products would be satisfactory.
So you will make the ultimate selection, or will FEMA?
We will make it.
And they will pay for whatever
Right.
you choose?
So once we make the selection, we have to pay for the installation and then ask for reimbursement.
Okay.
And so you went and looked at steel windows first, just to do replace in kind, and that was $150,000.
Correct. So we went back to the original
Yeah.
paperwork. Hope Windows is what was installed in 1956. They still exist. They
Yeah.
have a distributor in the Chicago area. That was Bill Rice, and I reached out to him.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I think, and that was a good plan, just to do that, because we would have asked for that. But we also take into consideration prohibitive costs when it comes to replacements. So I think you've done some due diligence that way. Yeah, so I don't know that I have a question for you, just more statements.
Okay?
I have a question, maybe not for you, but it's a question. So you are proposing to replace the windows on the east side?
And the west side.
And the west side. So I understand why we are looking at the east side and having a discussion about that, because it's the front of the building. Why are we involved in the discussion on the west side?
Because you can see it. You can see it from
The
From the
public,
right of way.
3rd Street.
from 3rd Street, even
Yeah.
though the pergola is now there, you can still see it?
Well, you can see it even from,
Yeah,
Okay.
you can see it from James too also, I believe.
yeah, yeah.
Because there's a parking lot there. So it's visible from
Is it
the
a parking lot or is that an alley behind you?
It's more of a parking lot. It's not an alley. It doesn't, there's not, you can't go through, no.
But it's visible from the right of way. So,
I was just trying to make it easier for you.
Well, when I talked to, we've been talking to Michael Lambert about this for a year and a half, and he said that perhaps not all those windows on the west side would be within your preview, but
yeah.
we'll let you decide that.
Yeah. The, I don't see the one thing that I'm missing from this packet, and I don't know whether it was given to, in the, excuse me. Did you put in a permit for this? I guess that's.
Not yet.
Okay.
The permit application went with the documentation here. We identified the contractor as TBD, which we heard was acceptable.
Okay, but you have submitted a permit for this?
Yes, I
Okay.
completed one in
Okay.
the packet.
Okay, because I didn't see, I don't know whether did you have any drawings of what the original profile of the windows were?
Yeah, we showed it here, and Michael Mackey, who is a member of our church, did these, and he would strongly make sure that I make a correction. He's a retired architect. Evidently, there's a difference between architect and retired. That's the way he explained it to me.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
I was just looking
Why don't we
at
go back to the other one, to the picture one. This is the one that shows each of the lights, the overall frames. And if you go down the bottom left, it shows you the width of the mullions.
Yeah, A, B, and C.
A, B, and C.
Yeah, actually, I did see that, I'm sorry. That's what's kind of hanging me up on this, is because I look at there's a 1.5, 2.5, and 3.5 inch, or 3-inch mullion, and and you're going back with, your intent is to go back with something that's all, that isn't all fixed windows, correct?
The large ones, they're all casement now, and in 1956 that made sense because there was no air conditioning. So in a replacement, we're looking to have two of those lights as casements and the rest of them being fixed.
Okay.
Would those be the two lights on the ends, or would they be?
We've got a couple. We have a couple of options. One is on the end is what we were thinking, but the retired architect Michael recently mentioned potentially the two windows from the sides. So you got the first one, the second one would be casement, and then the third and fourth would be fixed. Fifth one would be casement, and the
So there
sides.
would be a small variation.
Correct. Which is
size,
which is similar, it's similar to this, right? That's why
Maybe
we
you turn on your
we're
microphone.
rethinking. Yeah, get closer. Oh, sorry.
So, I guess the only issue I have is, I guess the 2 1/4 is not that far off the mullion that was originally there, which was between 1.5 and 3 inches. I mean, it is. Are you? They're painted green right now. Is there going to be a color to the aluminum?
We can go green. We were considering dark browns, which is a standard color and is less expensive, because the green would be a custom color. So as far as we understood, color was, we could pick whatever color we wanted, and we haven't gotten that far.
Okay.
Is color a concern for us?
If it's a material that's actually part of the material, if the color is part of the material, which dark bronze would be,
Right.
dark bronze anodized is integral to the color, and just like a metal roof, we would have something to say about
Something
a
that's
metal
pre-finished.
roof. Something that's pre-finished and isn't painted, we would have something to say about that. So that, I think that we'd want to know that the color that you were looking to use. And if it's dark bronze, I'm not sure that anyone has an issue with that.
Yeah, I would just suggest that it be a darker color, whether
Yeah.
it's bronze or green or, I mean, those windows probably have been repainted several times.
Yeah.
I mean, do we have any idea what the original color was?
Well, back, that was a black and white photo of, and those photos that we showed original were like in the mid-1990s. That's the best we could find. They looked like they were black or very dark.
Yeah, I mean, I would just suggest that, you keep a darker color.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there any reason, or are there other windows on the church, like the sides of the church itself, that are concerned to DHS? Or
Yes.
is there plans for that in the
Yes.
future?
Yes. We have protective windows on the sanctuary.
Okay.
So those are another way of saying a storm window, I guess. And we have funding to replace those two.
Okay.
And they would be the same as they are now, an aluminum window, but with laminated glass.
Oh, I had one more question. On a 6-light one, you're gonna have 2 that are casements. Will you have screens for those also?
I
Or
haven't
don't-
gotten that far.
Okay.
But if we had screens, they'd be on the inside like they are now.
Okay.
So I
And-
personally, okay.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I personally don't have a problem with what's being proposed here. It's, a metal window for a metal window, and as long as it stays dark, so, it looks somewhat like the same contrast that the original windows had, it makes sense to move forward with a replacement. So-
And the glass area seems to be similar.
Yeah, the scale is
Enough.
the same,
Mhm.
the frame sizes are still narrow enough to be considered.
Yeah, that was my only concern, was that the profile of the window, the steel windows are pretty narrow. But they are, when you mull them together, they end up being probably closer to what they're talking about, so that's true. I think it's acceptable. Any other comments from anyone?
Nope.
Kevin, you want to put together a motion?
Sure. I move that we approve the request to replace the windows on the, what year is that?
56.
Edition.
1956.
1956 edition, as specified in our packet. This is at 102 South 2nd Street.
I'll second that.
Okay, call the roll.
Jensen? Aye. McManus?
Aye.
Phillips?
Aye.
Tobler?
Aye.
Zelmer?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to keep your
The
phone?
evening
or
of
do I
Jacques
get to take
Bronson.
It is. Jacques. Okay. Next on our agenda is 318 South 5th Street.
Okay, yes, let me get to it. All right, so today we are going to be looking at 318 South 5th Street. This is going to be for a potential historic pergola rebuild. This is a very exciting request, as the Hoyt House, designed by Frank Lloyd Wright in 1906, is a notable example of his prairie-style architecture. This design approach is characterized by its horizontal lines and integration with natural landscape, aiming to create harmony between the home and its surroundings. This structure is a small, square-shaped structure that is finished in stucco. Unlike many of Wright's designs from this era, which often feature indirect entrances, the Hoyt House prominently places its entrance at the center of the elevation. This entrance leads directly into the living room, bypassing a traditional hallway. The straightforward placement and the symmetrical design suggest that this was a collaboration of Wright's staff, and it played a role in its design. Though not always easily visible, this detail underscores Wright's attention to geometric patterns and his innovative approach to integrating architectural elements. Overall, the Hoyt House is a testament to Wright's prairie style, blending form, function, and the nature in an evolved design, yet remaining true to its original form. All right, so as for the request, the applicant seeks approval to reconstruct the historic pergola based on Frank Lloyd Wright's original architectural plans, with reinforcements developed in consultation with the Frank Lloyd Wright Conservancy. Per the applicant, and after inspecting the pergola, the signs of wear are significant. There's extensive moisture damage, including missing wood, wood rot, paint deterioration with bubbling and alligatoring. So with these pictures, I think they're very special. It's important to note that the pergola that is visible today was not built in 1906 with the original structure. Okay. So was the same structure that's there today is the original?
It's the original design.
Oh, so it's not original to the house, it's the original design.
It's not the original material.
Okay. So, so it is important to note that the pergola is visible today, but it was not, the pergola that is here today was not built. It's not the original that was there. After Frank Lloyd Wright had applied the pergola to the front, new owners removed the pergola and added a hipped roof over the entryway. We have Patricia McLaughlin here, which, by the way, she recently won an award for her preservation efforts of the 1906 house by the Wright Conservancy. She was the one who took the original floor plans of Frank Lloyd Wright and helped the pergola. Today, in collaboration with one of the architects from the Frank Lloyd Wright Conservatory, she is working to rebuild the pergola and make it a bit sturdier. The applicant, as well as the architect, are using the exact measurements and designs provided by original floor plans. So, and I do apologize for the appearance of these floor plans. They are the original, and I felt bad running a Frank Lloyd Wright floor plan through a copier. So I scanned it to make sure that they were safe. But anytime the pergola has been built or constructed, they've went off these plans, they've went off these measurements. The pergola will remain the same, but will have steel covered by the wood to enhance the sturdiness. The small amounts of steel, if they are visible, will be painted the same color as the wood to give a seamless appearance. And as I said before, we have the award-winning applicant, Patricia P. McLaughlin, here to answer any questions for you guys.
Thank you.
Do you want to step up and have anything, Patricia? Add?
So, yes, I think I know a fair bit about the house and its history.
Well, I would like to congratulate you on your award and thank you so much for preserving the house and taking such good care of it.
Well, thank you. I think that it's an asset to the city.
Mm-hmm. Certainly is.
So when was the pergola built, the one that stands today? Do we have a year on?
Well, it's we rebuilt it shortly after we moved into the house.
Okay.
And that was in 1974.
Okay.
And it was very difficult actually to find anybody to do it because we couldn't even get bids. And finally, when we got somebody who was willing to do it, we took them. And we were not aware of perhaps the inherent difficulties of the structure. If it really has a problem in its delicacy with the the largest part of the, the lattice work enclosed in heavy beams. And really, they should, and I don't know whether you can, if you saw the, if you saw the design up there, I could probably point to it. No, that's, I would like to show it from the top. Look at the second story. look at the drawing from the second story down.
That wasn't in the package.
But I'm sure it was.
We only took pictures of those two.
Oh, really?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But I have that here, if you'd like to speak to it.
Okay. The reason for its, this is the drawing that I was wanting, yes. So, I don't know whether you can see it, but there's this heavy structure here, and these here, but then there's this delicate work in here, and it's inherently unstable right at this point. And that's the reason that, and we weren't aware of that the first time we built it, and have repaired it, and so on and so forth. So it's been a ongoing problem for many years. But with the steel reinforcement, it will create a situation that's strong, but duplicates the intended original purpose, because the steel is going to be surfaced in such a way that it will match the paint and the...
Oh, could you step back over
Yeah,
by
yeah,
the,
sorry.
yeah, we're just having trouble recording it.
Oh, I didn't know you were recording it.
Yeah.
Oh dear, I should have been... I should have been watching my grammar.
We always get little nods from the back room there about how we're not speaking into our microphones either.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
so, I lost my train of thought, but anyway, I think that it will outlast me in this new rendering. Oh, I was going to say that even the wood, we're using more durable wood products and everything else too.
So the pergola that's in existence today doesn't even fall under the time frame that we would be concerned with taking it down, and I think that's an interesting thing to note there. We've got a historic home, and we've got a pergola that you're looking to replicate in the original design. I think we just...
Well, in a way, I almost feel as though this is an issue that shouldn't be wasting your time.
Well, Paul, what were you going to say?
I think
But I know the ordinance calls for it.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of, we're glad to see it come in front of us so
Yeah.
that we can look at it and make sure that you're being
Diligent.
respectful to the
Yeah.
existing structure. Because I think that if you're going to take the existing one down, I think that if you put a new pergola on there, we would have, that's what we're reviewing more than anything else.
Yeah.
So, and I think that with the fact that we have the documentation from the documents that she has, I think we're good to do that. So.
I just had a question on that drawing there, and I know everyone here hasn't seen that, but maybe we could pass it around.
Yes.
Was it your understanding that Mr. Wright did not design this with lattice work on these two?
No, it shows, I have other things where it shows that the lattice work was
Is
there.
on both sides?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that was definitely part of his design?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You have a different drawing that shows that?
There are many drawings.
Yeah.
And that.
So, could you clarify again what portions are going to be steel, which portions are going to be?
You have the drawings. You
Yeah.
have
Right, so the lattice work will be the wood?
The lattice work will be
Okay.
wood.
And then the steel,
Although some of the lattice will.
If you could step up again to the,
Some of the lattice will be the steel because we need something to reinforce that particular, that area that's in that,
and the two sides.
between, that, yes, that join the heavy sides across. And I think that, you know, his Imperial Hotel withstood the earthquake and everything else, but this was not necessarily the most astute drawing, but this way it'll look the way it was intended. Is that enough, or is that all you care for?
I think, is that, do we have any more questions for Ms. Patricia?
I don't think so.
I don't.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Oh, that is
okay. So we don't have any issue with the demolition of it because it was done in 1974.
Correct, yeah.
If it's going back, at least it's going back per the documents that we have.
Yeah.
The documentation that we have, so. I don't, and I think that
I have a question. So you're saying 74, we don't have a problem with that because it's not within the period of significance?
Wait,
Correct.
the staff report says 1980s.
Well, even if it was 1980 or 1974, as long as it's after 1966.
So we don't take into account the Geneva period of significance, which is 30 years prior to the application, which would make it, you know, which would make it historic.
Well,
there's two periods of significance, right? Essentially, one ends in 66. That's the national one, and then there's the Geneva specific district, which basically goes from 30 years prior to whatever the date of the application is.
I've never heard that before.
I've never heard that before. We go from our period of significance, I believe, is from like 1835 to, I haven't heard a 30-year period of significance requirement.
Jackie.
So the national, whoa, okay, sorry guys. The National Park Service sometimes does indicate that in historic districts, there is a 30-year period of significance, and it is documented, I believe, in our ordinance.
That's not what that's not what I've come to, that's not what I have heard from what we're.
Oh, we have a.
If you could state your name for the record, sir.
Dave DeGroot, City of Geneva. It's always been my understanding that in order to be eligible for landmark status or a historic district, you have to be at least 30 years old. Not that anything within the district that is 30 years old gains significance.
Okay.
Okay, so we're still working with the period of significance of from 1835, 1840 to 1966 is our period of significance,
That's my understanding, correct.
Yeah, okay.
But even at, I mean, I think that it is replacement in kind too.
Yeah, I'm not really, questioning that. Was just curious about that distinction. And
that's my understanding of it, and maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I'd like to make a motion to approve this. So I would like to move to approve the replacement of the non-contributing pergola at 318 South 5th Street.
Second. Are you finished, Lisa?
I am.
Okay.
I just petered out there, sorry.
Jensen,
Aye.
McManus,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Tobler,
Aye.
Zelmer.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, the next thing on our agenda is Campbell Courtyard PUD, case number 2024-071.
All right, so the request for this is that the City of Geneva Planning and Zoning Commission is seeking Historic Preservation Commission's comments on the connector removal and hardscape project at 200 South 3rd Street and 310 Campbell Street, planned for the spring and summer of 2024. The planned unit development involves the removal of the modern connector between the buildings at 200 South 3rd Street and 310 Campbell Street. Historically, these buildings were exclusively occupied by the McFadden family's businesses until 2008, when they were subdivided into 6 leased units, 3 per building, due to the Great Recession. The connector, which previously facilitated indoor movement between these businesses, is now not needed. Its removal will reopen the exterior corridor between the 2 structures, which had existed for over a decade. This project aims to restore the building's architectural character by reestablishing their original residential scales. The porch on Campbell Street and the east end of the building will be re-exposed to natural light through its window walls on 3 sides. The landscape design includes a garden courtyard with brick walkways, bluestone, planting beds, patio areas featuring pedestrian walkways, a buffer between the buildings, and a community relaxation space. The Planning and Zoning Commission anticipates that these changes will enhance the property's aesthetic appeal and functionality for the benefits of the owner and the neighborhood. Here is a picture of what the structure looks like prior to the development of the connector, and this is what it looks like today. The applicant, Dan McFadden, who is here today, you want to talk about? Yeah. This is the he is proposing with the hardscaping and landscaping of the future project. And time for questions.
I just have a question for you, Jackie. This is a PUD, so are we just making comments about this?
Yes, you're making a comment of the removal of the connector, but in the future, for siding, windows, anything else, that would have to go directly before the HPC. But for today, this is just the motion for comments, if that is such a thing, regarding.
Just looking for feedback.
Just looking for feedback yeah. to give to the
we're not voting
Planning Commission, correct?
Yeah, we're not voting on anything. We're actually done voting for the evening, so
okay.
We're just commenting now.
Okay.
But that is for the Campbell Courtyard.
Okay.
So at this point, we don't need to know what windows he's going to be putting there or the siding. We don't need to know any of that.
We can definitely talk about it if you guys, well, if you have a comment on what you want to see in the future, that's definitely welcomed. But I need floor plans. I'm just kidding.
Could you take us back to the
picture that showed both of them?
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to
no,
jump right on top of you.
Yeah, it's exactly what I needed. So what we're looking at on the left, or I'm sorry, it's getting late. My speech is losing it all. So we're looking to kind of put it back to where it is on the left, not, right? Yeah, I can't even talk anymore.
Yes.
And get rid of the area in between. And so I think the directive would be to have the features of the building originally shine through when you're done with the project, right? I'm sure that there was some historic materials that were pulled when you build the connector, and so then we would just need to put back something that was in kind when you put it back or to its original state.
Yeah. Do I have to say my name? Dan McFadden?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, I think it's pretty simple. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out tonight and hearing me out here. Okay, so on the left is what we want it to be. So I dragged that picture out. I'm glad I had it because it's pretty helpful. It's more helpful than an architectural drawing, I think. Yeah. What you have on the right is what it looks like today. Right. So we simply remove that thing that connects the 2 buildings. You can see that there's 3 windows on the east side. On the left picture, one of them remains, the one on the right. The other 2 are gone. So what I'm thinking we can do...
Are you sure your mother doesn't have it somewhere?
Yeah, exactly. So there are, on the sun porch, there are 7 windows, 3 on the east side, 2 in the south two in the north which you can see and two that you can't see facing south where you see the car, okay? So we could take the two that are on the south back part of the property, pop them in next to the one that's existing, and then replace with new the ones that are not visible to the street, provided that my contractor thinks it can work. He is going to restore it to, you know, he will be informed by what's still there on the porch in terms of the roof structure, siding, and so forth. So I guess I would ask a question, will we need any drawings for approvals, or just the description that I laid out?
I think drawings would be helpful to see the process.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the directive is pretty clear.
Yeah, and we have evidence of what it was.
Yeah.
So, and I do like the idea of moving the
Windows.
from the back to the, because I assuming they're the right size. It looks like they're roughly all the same. I would imagine the ones in the back are probably the same size.
Right, if they're not, then obviously I can't do that,
Yeah,
so we'll have to
exactly,
replace.
exactly. So you'd go back with something of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but actually, it brings up the fact that that's why we like to have things like separated out and breaks on them, because then we can go back to the way it was, and that you can definitely go back to, I think it's a good solution.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Looks nice.
And I think we would want the same kind of wood siding with the same
Correct.
exposure. And I noticed that there's metal corners on the north, that corner that's facing us here. I don't know if that could be replicated on the south corner for the siding. But
You mean a vertical piece?
on the corner of the sun porch,
Uh-huh.
there's the boards, the siding boards are connected with a metal.
Okay.
That if you can replicate that or find those somewhere and use that on the backside.
Right.
Because you're gonna have to add siding underneath the windows
Right.
and, you know, a little bit on the, you know, the side of the window there going to the corner.
Correct.
So if that siding could be connected to, you know, butted together with a metal
Right.
corner, that would, I think, be preferable, because that's what the rest of the house has.
Okay.
And then, when the connector is taken off of the building, what do we know what was originally there on the 3rd Street house? Were there windows? Was it just siding? Do we know?
Siding, but I'd like to add a window on the west face that matches. You can't see it, but on the left picture, if you were to move over a little bit to the left, there are 2 double hung windows. I'd like to add another double hung, just to sort of match it so it doesn't look like a blank wall.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think we would encourage, that would be fine, as long as it matches, you know. I'm assuming we would get, that would come before us, before it was done,
Correct.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would, because this is just you're just getting through zoning, and then
Yeah.
you'll actually have to put together a formal permit when you do the work too.
So just so I understand, so the permit would include taking off the connector and modifying or put the house back the way it was before?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, out of curiosity, when was that picture taken on the left? What year,
On
approximately?
the left.
Yeah, this one right here.
Yeah. Maybe 25 years ago?
Okay.
Oh, well, we added the connector in 08-ish.
If I remember correctly during your meeting, you said that this picture was 99 or 2000.
Yeah.
So.
What did I just say? 25?
20,
So it's about 25.
24,
yeah.
25,
Yeah.
whatever it takes.
Sorry, getting a little late.
Yeah.
No, I'm not teasing. I was literally asking you what I said.
So,
or that's probably the original siding of the house, I would assume.
I'm not sure. I think so.
Yeah.
Let's not go there.
Gotta make sure.
That's for the
Okay.
next permit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, I think I think there doesn't seem to be any issues with taking it off. So I think that would be our recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission, that there are no historic commission issues with that.
Yeah.
I also forgot to mention this when I was presenting it. The National Park Service is actually very in favor of historic buildings removing, obviously being sensitive to the historic nature of the material, but they're very much in favor of removing anything that's not historic, so.
Yeah.
Correct.
So if I would have waited another 30 years, then
You would have been in trouble.
You wanna wait?
Yeah. Well, actually, 30 years from 2008.
Yeah, it's even 5 years.
yeah, we're running out of time.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have a good
exactly.
time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, y'all, last but not least. Oh, wait, we
Okay,
have to
I
announce it,
will,
sorry.
the next item is item D, accessory dwelling units, case number 2024-75. Take it away.
All right, I will not be speaking this evening, but our Assistant City Planner, Jessie Muncie, she and her team are working on accessory dwelling units, and she's the resident expert, so she's gonna take it away.
All right.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Okay. So we're here. So, what's that little pointer thing? Hold on a second. Does that thing work? A little bit. Might use that. Okay. So yeah, we will be talking about accessory dwelling units and historic properties. We have a accessory dwelling unit draft ordinance to show to you. So first we will talk about the background, why this is coming before the city at all. The committee of the whole recap from November and a little bit from August. The draft ordinance itself, and then the next steps in this process. So the background, the goals and objectives, and then existing regulations. Firstly, there's a downtown station area master plan relevant goals, and that sort of led to the discussion about ADUs. So there's 4 relevant goals in that plan. Goal 1, preserve downtown's authentic character while accommodating new infill development. And ADUs help achieve that by maintaining design standards, but offering modest increase in residential units, or providing, sorry. Goal 3 is to maintain downtown as a civic heart of the city. And ADUs help with that by providing new units in downtown. Goal 4 is to encourage diversity of residential development, development types in and near downtown. And again, ADUs provide diverse housing near downtown. And goal 5 is to make it easy to get around. Well, new ADUs are often more walkable than non-ADU units because they exist in already developed areas. Then there's Geneva's strategic plan. And this objective is economic vitality objective 1 that ADUs address. So that objective says to maintain an economically healthy population through support of new housing opportunities and changes that may allow for greater variety of housing available to individuals at all stages of life and income levels. So ADUs help provide for that with new housing opportunities, and then a greater variety of housing because they're smaller than regular single-family units for individuals at all stages of life and income levels. So they could be for college grads or young adults that kind of want to live at home but don't really, so they could live in an ADU on the same property as their parents, or older folks who want to live near their kids, or anyone else, renters, a variety of life stages and income levels. And then we have fiscal year goal 2024, which was last fiscal year. Goal number 3, research standards and regulations for accessory dwelling units, ADUs, present findings to the committee of the whole for a policy discussion and seek direction whether or not to pursue amendments and programs that would allow for ADUs in the community. So we completed that a little bit a month later than that. We completed it in November, but the goal was October. And we presented not a draft ordinance, but our findings, initial findings on ADU ordinances to the committee of the whole. So what do we have now that is sort of like an accessory dwelling unit is an accessory senior citizen dwelling. And in our code, accessory senior citizen dwellings may be located within single-family detached structures, only as a temporary use, renewable every 2 years. So they're pretty prohibitive to people who want to do them. The requirements are proof that the permitted residence is owner-occupied, that's not prohibitive, but certification that at least one occupant of the accessory dwelling unit is a senior citizen, limit to 2 occupants, both must be related to principal householder, and this is kind of the tough part here. Accessory apartment must be converted back to the principal dwelling upon vacation of the occupancy. So we haven't had any takers since David has been here, he told me, so that's been a long time. Yeah. But yeah, so that partially prompted this discussion as well because we haven't had any takers on that ordinance. So now we'll talk about the November City of the Whole meeting, and a little bit of this was also shared in the August City of the Whole meeting. The benefits, issues, and regional execution of ADUs. So the definition, in case you all don't know, or a little bit refresher here, they can take multiple forms. They can be detached. You can sort of see that cursor right there. So like this little outbuilding right there, a detached structure, an attached structure, attached above the garage, so just build something up there, detached above garage, interior converted garage, interior upper floor ADU, like an attic converted to an ADU, or a basement. And definitionally, the difference between just having an extra space, let's say above your garage to like hang out or like eat or something, is it has to have a certain number of what's called characteristics. So it has to have, let's get in here. I didn't write this down on this sheet, but a separate entrance. So like, let's say a stairway up here. It has to have a kitchen, it has to have a living area, and I think that's
a bathroom.
Yeah, yeah. So it has to be a totally separate living area. Okay, then some of the benefits are increased housing affordability and income stream, diverse housing stock, and environmentally conscious housing. Some could argue that because it doesn't contribute to sprawl. Issues could be parking. If you already have a heavily trafficked or parked area and then you want to add more units, that's just naturally a concern. Property maintenance, some people worry that if you have, let's say somebody wanted to rent out an ADU because it is a separate living unit, so you don't have to use the same facilities as the primary residence, then it could lead to delinquent property owners, but we have ways in the ordinance to address that. And then design, people worry it's going to be different than the main design of the home. Regional execution, so as of now, 20 northeastern Illinois towns permit or may permit ADUs. Some of them by us, St. Charles, Batavia, and Montgomery, to say a few in South Elgin as well. There's that. Now we get to the draft ordinance, which we presented to, David presented to the City of the Whole in August. They did have 2 notes that we edited in here, and I'll explain those, call those out. So we have the existing regulations, proposed regulations, and the impact on preservation. We're going to delete in its entirety the accessory senior citizen dwelling because the ADU will take its place. Just deleting that again. We're going to add accessory dwelling unit, and this is a definition here. A dwelling unit subordinate to and located on the same zoning lot as an existing single-family detached dwelling that provides, separate from the principal single-family dwelling, provisions for cooking, eating, sleeping, sanitation, ingress, and egress. So that's what I alluded to before. We're just amending the definition of a single-family dwelling to accommodate this accessory dwelling unit definition. Right now, it is a building containing one dwelling unit only, but we're adding which is not attached to any other dwelling unit with the exception of an accessory dwelling unit. So that's just to separate this idea from the idea of a duplex or triplex. We will also amend where it is permitted in the yard. So street yard, side yard, rear yard is permitted in all of those for attached accessory dwelling structures. So this is attached. For detached, same case. We're not changing this provision about the height of accessory buildings. So right now, the structure shall not exceed the height of the principal building or structure on the zoning lot, or 25 feet, whichever is less. That stays the same. No change to the floor area ratio calculations. Again, no change to the floor area. And then this is, we will amend where this will add sort of where accessory dwelling units can be, which districts they can be in. So originally we were going to have them just in the DSFMR and the DSFHR districts to kind of create a pilot area for it in the downtown. But the committee of the whole decided that we should open up to the entire city for all single-family districts. So that's what we're doing here. So then it would also be in the DMHR district and DRSCM district, just speaking of downtown so far. And then also in all of these residential districts, everything minus the R7. This is a map of where they could be located as a permitted use, with the historic district and landmarks called out. A little bit closer for you guys. That's what it'll look like. And then this is the ordinance itself about the accessory dwelling units. So, general standards. Accessory dwelling units shall be permitted in all zoning districts, which allow single-family dwellings as a permitted use. Accessory dwelling units shall comply with yard, setback, and height requirements set forth in section 1133-3-3. Accessory dwelling units shall not be constructed prior to construction of the principal single-family dwelling, kind of ensuring that they're subordinate to that. Number. There shall be no more than one accessory dwelling unit, whether attached or detached, on a zoning lot. Ownership. The owner of the zoning lot on which the accessory dwelling unit is located shall occupy either the principal single-family residence or the accessory dwelling unit. For the purposes of this section, the owner shall be one or more individuals residing in a dwelling who hold legal or beneficial ownership and for whom the dwelling is the primary residence for voting and tax purposes. And one could say that that provision right there, minus the taxi part, helps ensure that there's not delinquent property owners with regards to the design. Because the idea is if the owner lives in either the accessory dwelling unit or the principal dwelling, then they won't want the outside to deteriorate or renters to kind of let it go, so to speak.
Could I ask just one question, whether that was thought out with the idea that you could have a snowbird that might live in more than 6 months in Florida and then wouldn't be able to vote or tax, or I guess it would still be tax issues, so it's either or, right? Or is it and? That's
I'm
probably in the
not
weeds
sure.
a little too much, yeah.
Are you thinking about it, Paul?
I am, actually, but that's okay.
I didn't look too much into that part. I'm not sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, just curious.
Is it, okay. Do you mind if I go on? Is that okay?
Sure, go ahead.
Sorry, okay. And then number 2, an accessory dwelling unit may not be held in separate ownership. A lot that includes an accessory dwelling unit may not be further subdivided. So it's not going to be 2 separate lots. It will always be 1 lot. A deed restriction shall be recorded prior to issuance of a building permit for the accessory dwelling unit to provide notice of these requirements to subsequent owners. Parking. At least 2 off-street parking spaces shall be provided for the principal single-family residence, which is already in our code, and at least 1 additional off-street parking space shall be provided for the accessory dwelling unit. Size. Accessory dwelling units shall not exceed 33% of the gross floor area of the principal single-family dwelling on the lot. So originally, we had in the code, at least a month ago, that it would be accessory dwelling units shall not exceed 1,000 square feet or 33% of the gross floor area, whichever is less. But the committee of the whole decided that that would be too prohibitive and sort of arbitrary to make it 1,000 square feet. Because some different towns have it at 600 square feet or more than 1,000, so they said we should go by a percentage instead, and 33% seems to be clearly subordinate to the primary residence.
This would actually, they wanted to stay at 1,000 square feet.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Sorry. Flip it then. Okay, so it's 1,000 square feet. And what was the reasoning then? I apparently forgot.
Because it was an easier interpretation.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So
Which is it, 1,000 square feet or 33 and 30?
1,000 square feet. I mistakenly.
So that's not correct?
Yeah, I edited it afterwards, and then I misremembered it. So.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. So yeah, it's 1,000 square feet. I guess to make it simpler. Hold on a second here. Okay. Design. So an accessory dwelling unit shall be designed to be clearly secondary to the principal single-family dwelling on the site. The entry to the accessory dwelling unit shall be such that the appearance of the building shall remain a single-family residence. No new additional entrances to the front of the structure facing the street shall be permitted. No exterior stairways providing access above the ground floor to accessory dwelling units shall be permitted in the street yard. An accessory dwelling unit shall be constructed to coordinate architectural features and exterior materials with the principal single-family dwelling. Accessory dwelling units located within a detached garage shall be subject to all requirements for a detached garage as well as requirements for an occupancy permit. Detached accessory dwelling units shall be located at least 10 feet from the principal single-family dwelling. That's just for fire separation. Accessory dwelling units shall use utility services provided to the principal single-family dwelling and shall not be separately metered. Boom. Okay, non-conforming uses and structures. An accessory dwelling unit shall not be permitted on a lot with an existing non-conforming dwelling unit. For example, an accessory dwelling unit shall not be permitted on a lot with an existing 2-family or 3-family dwelling. Accessory dwelling units shall only be permitted on lots with a single-family dwelling. 2. Nothing shall prohibit a structure existing as of the date of this ordinance, including a non-conforming structure, from being converted for use to an accessory dwelling unit, provided that the conversion complies with this section and the non-conforming provisions set forth in Chapter 13. So, for example, if a garage is set a little bit too close to the setbacks and it's not conforming, they could put a vertical addition on that and make that an ADU because that is in alignment with the non-conforming provisions set forth in Chapter 13. Now to the preservation implications. So there's not that many potential issues that we could see. One of them is size could be incompatible with historic size of home, but again, I messed this one up, but solutions in the draft ordinance, the size of the ADU is limited to 1,000 square feet. So that would be hopefully not incompatible. And then design is incompatible with homes design, but the HPC would review ADUs, which would alter the facade visible from the street in the historic district. So if it wasn't visible, it wouldn't come before you anyway. And if it was visible, it would always come before you, have to be permitted as you normally would. And the benefit of ADUs is it adds housing without altering neighborhood character. So now, next steps. Next steps, Planning and Zoning Commission. So we will have hopefully will, have a public hearing to hear testimony from interested parties, consider the recommendations of the Historic Preservation Commission, and make recommendations to the City Council. Then it goes to City Council. Public meeting to review the recommendations of the Historic Preservation Commission, Planning and Zoning Commission, and adopt amendments to the zoning ordinance allowing for accessory dwelling units. And that would be the end. So, any questions?
Are we making we're making the recommendations tonight? Is that the intent? Okay.
Yes.
Is there any other cities?
If you could step up to the...
Sure, I will.
And state your name also.
My name is Carl Safanda. I live at 1013 Dunstan in Geneva. My question is there any other city, Batavia and, I don't know, would you give us Elgin, that has had a ADU in a historic district that allows it? I couldn't find one.
I did not look that up, so I'm not sure.
I don't think you can do
They do have
this.
ADUs within they have an ordinance for ADUs?
They do have ordinances for ADUs. I didn't look if they allow them in historic districts, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, my recommendation to you would be, don't allow them in a historic district. That would cut short your obligation here.
Yeah.
The other part is, I live in a subdivision, and I don't want to go too far, but in which it's limited to one house per lot. And lots of the lots are an acre. And that's pursuant to a restrictive covenant. I think there are probably other restrictive covenants that the ADU definition of a building is going to be a court battle as far as to whether or not that constitutes a violation of the covenant. So the third thing I will tell you, I looked up ADUs online, and there are a lot of problems with developers building ADUs that are multiples of the other unit. There are a lot of modest houses on the east side where my office is that 1,000 square foot addition for an ADU would be bigger than the existing home. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think there's still restrictions on lot coverage and things like that. Doesn't make these ADUs don't absolve you from not being able to cover your entire, plot of land with a building, right? I mean, we still have those restrictions.
Exactly, yeah, it doesn't affect those at all.
Okay.
It just allows it as another, it doesn't affect those at all, yeah.
So I think that generally speaking, us as a commission are reviewing whether it's one of these or whether it's an addition, whether it's, a shed that's visible from the street, a new garage or whatever. We always end up reviewing things like that regardless. So I don't know that this necessarily affects us or has us approaching anything differently than we would have on a normal day, whether it was an addition or someone was, building one of these on top of a garage or something. So there's still height restrictions, there's still design restrictions. We still want to see the original house present in whatever happens. I think that doesn't change because of the addition of this ordinance.
Yep.
That's my thought. I think it's a case-by-case situation for us.
I would agree with you, and I think that limiting it to 1,000 square feet, I think would, I don't know, it kind of, I believe it acknowledges the housing shortage that we have,
Right.
and so.
Especially in the downtown area, within the district.
Correct. Comments, Kevin?
Would the ADU have a separate address? I mean, I think that would be necessary. I mean, it's not a historical preservation issue.
No, it's
that
not.
Just came up when I was thinking about people renting, voting, voter registration, that type of thing. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Lisa that it seems like anything that would come from this ordinance would be something that we would review.
Yeah.
For design purposes and,
Yep.
compliance and, fitting in with the character of the historic district.
Yeah.
But just a comment, going back to the gentleman that said that, have you guys reached out to other communities that have these ADUs to see what the pros and cons are, or what's working, what's not, or how we can not go fall in the same trap that, they've learned and we're making the same mistakes?
Sure, yeah, about a year and a half ago, like shortly after I started here, working here, we reached out to neighboring communities like St. Charles and Batavia. I asked St. Charles if they had any issues with the parking, and they don't have any parking restrictions at all. They don't have an additional parking space required, and they had no issues and no complaints, so.
That'll probably be an issue for the community during the public hearings.
Yeah, probably.
Well, we can park on the street in the historic district.
Yeah.
With a placard, so. And I don't know whether, but that too, and I can park 2 cars in my driveway anyway, so I can still meet the requirement, so.
But the ordinance would allow 1 additional street parking spot for the ADU?
It would require it.
It would require
an
off-street.
off-street.
An off-street.
Yeah.
Does the current ordinance require 2 off-street parkings per, even in the historic district? Sean is nodding his head.
And in this case, what they would do is just, we have the idea anyway, that they would just show us like on a map of their house where all the parking spaces would be. Just kind of say, it would work, and then we'd go, sounds good.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest issue. Now if we can get the people to park correctly during Swedish days.
Yeah. So we're not voting on anything, we're just providing feedback.
Yeah, Any other feedback from?
Not at this time.
No.
Yeah, I agree with Lisa's comments. That we would be looking at, if that's what you're looking for. Did you get what you needed from us? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation.
It was good.
Okay. The next item on our item is the Secretary's report. Go ahead, Jackie. I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. So since our last meeting, I administratively approved 8 permits. Lots of fun. And my last update, now that I have you all here, I would like to establish a design guideline group. Essentially, you're my second set of eyes as I start turning out this new information. So I'm not going to inundate you with tons of emails, but I will send out, maybe a section every maybe 2 weeks for your approval, for your comments, and then ultimately the design guidelines would go back to the commission for review. So I think I'm fun to work with. So if you guys are interested, please let me know, or we can decide right now.
Okay.
Okay.
We can decide now.
Okay.
I think it sounds great.
Would you like to join the team, Jewel?
I would, and so would Kevin.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent.
You can come.
Is it just a join the team, or are there specific areas of?
Everyone's welcome.
Okay.
I make a lot of mistakes, so I would love 15 sets of eyes if possible. But you would be essentially correcting anything that you found that was incorrect or we needed more info on. So I will definitely forward that information to you guys.
Okay. That sounds good.
And that's all I have for today.
Okay, great, thank you. Any new business from the commission? No? Okay, from the public. Mr. Watts, would you like to say?
I was going to give a 1 hour slow. Oh, I don't like it.
Very good, thank you. And then with that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. We're adjourned.